distinguished members of the Indian community and friends of India in Kuwait, good evening. Honorable External Affairs Minister of India, His Excellency Dr. Jaishankar, has arrived and he is now on his way to the podium, accompanied by Ambassador of India to Kuwait, His Excellency Shri C.P. George. To welcome the Honorable Minister and begin the official proceedings, I invite His Excellency Ambassador of India, Shri C.P. George, to the podium. Thank you, sir.
Honorable External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, sir, my brothers and sisters, friends of India, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Sir, almost a year ago, you sent me here with an important responsibility as the Ambassador of India to Kuwait to represent our 1.3 billion Indian brothers and sisters, to engage with the leadership of the state of Kuwait, to build our relationship with this important country in our extended neighborhood, and to ensure the welfare of the Indians in Kuwait. Sir, the greatest honor for any ambassador posted anywhere in the world is to welcome his External Affairs Minister to his country of accreditation. It becomes the proudest moment when one is joined by the Indian diaspora and the friends of India. Sir, it is an honor for us to welcome you to Kuwait. Sir, Indian diaspora in Kuwait have always been with us to celebrate India and our Indian festivals. They contribute immensely in strengthening our partnership with Kuwait. They include scientists, professors, artists, doctors, engineers, medical professionals, lawyers, business persons, government officials in key positions, and our skilled and semi-skilled workers, all contributing to the progress of the country where they live, and at the same time, not forgetting about their motherland. I should specifically mention the large number of Indian students who are studying in Kuwait. Sir, the India-Kuwait partnership ranges from students to business establishments and industrial houses, laboratories to factories, science and technology to innovation and research, hospitals and medical research to even music and dance institutes. There is also a great connect of yoga and Ayurveda. Our Indian diaspora and our friends of India they are the ones who are driving this important partnership between the two countries. They are also in the forefront of supporting each other in times of need before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Indian community, individuals, groups, and associations have contributed immensely to help each other and in the supply of oxygen to India during the pandemic. Sir, one of the most important aspects of this partnership is our growing people-to-people exchanges. In the 60th anniversary of our diplomatic relations, we look forward to working together to take our relationship to new levels of partnership. Sir, on behalf of the Indian community in Kuwait and the friends of India in Kuwait, I welcome you to Kuwait and for this address today. Sir, may I request you to kindly address the Indian community and the friends of India. Thank you.
Ambassador C.B. George, my fellow Indians, friends of India and Kuwait, I'm really very pleased to join you all this evening as I conclude what is my first ever visit to Kuwait. Many of you would have followed my program, but I would like to share with you, I was received very warmly. I had the privilege of calling on His Highness the Prime Minister. I carried a letter from our Prime Minister to His Highness the Amir. I held talks with Foreign Minister Sheikh Ahmed. The Commerce Minister, Dr. Abdullah, also joined in those talks. Normally, as the ambassador pointed out, a foreign minister, an Indian foreign minister, certainly wouldn't go to a country, and that to a country like Kuwait, without meeting the Indian community there. But you all understand that the present situation doesn't allow for a physical meeting. So I'm very glad, Ambassador, that you've made the arrangements for me to at least interact virtually with the community, and I certainly leave you all with the promise of a more direct contact the next time that I'm here. Let me actually begin by talking to you about the discussions that I had with the government of Kuwait, because I think as the Indian community living here, you have a legitimate interest in the matter. Some of it actually concerns your welfare as well. And you all know that for many years now, Kuwait has been a very important energy partner of India, very substantial trade partner as well. But my visit and my talks with Foreign Minister Ahmed were actually focused on how do we find new areas of cooperation, keeping in mind both the immediate impact of the COVID, because I think all of us have learned many things from the COVID experience, as well as the longer-term changes which are happening, the growth in India's capacities, its influence, what you might call the rebalancing in a way of the global order. And what does that really mean in practical terms for India and Kuwait? I think some of it we are seeing even as we speak. I would say today in an environment which is very dominated by our COVID concerns, health issues have become very important for every society. In fact, we look at health very much as today as part of our national security. And we discussed really how we could work more closely. I think last year, many of you would remember that we had sent out a military medical team to be with the Kuwait health authorities as they coped with the COVID. We also supplied some made in India vaccines earlier this year. So it's very clear that with the kind of impact that this pandemic has made, with the expectation that this is not a one-off affair but going to be something recurring, something we need to factor in. Clearly, health is a big issue. Food security is also another issue. Again, I think the COVID has heightened concerns. There were anxieties expressed in Kuwait, in other Gulf countries, because many of them source their essential supplies, especially food, from India. And I think you would know that we made exceptional efforts to ensure that the supply chains, the food supply especially, was kept open, kept uninterrupted, undisrupted through last year. We also discussed education, because I think people do see India today as not just a source of skills and talents, but as a country which is being very creative about growing its educational capacities. And again, during the COVID period, we've had a lot of exposure to distance education. But most of all, I think we focused heavily on the digital aspect, because COVID has accelerated the digitization of our daily existence. We all do more online shopping, but I think there was a lot of interest in Kuwait to understand how, for example, our contact tracing was done through an app, how our vaccine registration is done through a portal, how, in fact, whether it is payment of money into the accounts of vulnerable sections of society, or providing rations for people, again, during the time of COVID, how all of this was done using digital mediums and in a very seamless and in a very in a manner without any leakages. So the overall sense really was that even as we deal with COVID, as we battle challenges to our health and to our social fabric, the experience has actually brought to forefront a new agenda in a way. And we have agreed on a joint commission which Foreign Minister Sheikh Ahmad and I would be heading respectively for our governments. And we certainly hope that it will provide us a platform to reimagine our ties in a more substantive way. Now, when foreign ministers meet, they of course typically also talk about the rest of the world. And here I would say to you all that we greatly value the role of Kuwait in contributing to the stability of the Gulf. They have been very tireless in the diplomatic efforts dealing with various frictions in this region. And that is something which we have clearly been focused on as well. In fact, the regional issues were important enough that I used my presence in Kuwait to actually hold a larger meeting of our ambassadors in the Gulf. So we had a much more integrated discussion. How do we approach the Gulf in the new circumstances? What are the challenges here? And there are many common issues which the Indian community in the Gulf also faces, and I will speak to you about that as well briefly. Since I was speaking about the COVID, and I mentioned to you that we had sent a medical team and also ensured the food provision, I think it would be right for me also to bring out the importance of the effort that Kuwait has made, in fact is still making as we speak, in terms of providing medical oxygen to India. You all know that we had a very severe second wave nationally of COVID. The variants in question were exceptionally virulent. So the even though people had debated and modeled what could be a second wave, I think the reality was far bigger. It was more than 4 times what the first wave of the COVID was. And one of the immediate implications of that was really a large number of people who were in hospital with respiratory issues, who required oxygen. And in fact, the demand for medical oxygen went up from more than 1,000 metric tons, which is what it was last year, to 8,000, almost 9,000 metric tons. And we, of course, expanded our own capacities nationally, but it was very helpful for us to get oxygen supplies from abroad. And among the countries which actually took the lead, I would particularly single out Kuwait in this regard. They provided us, I think, more than 500 metric tons, and they're very prompt and very efficient in that regard. So to me, it is actually a proof that international partnerships and cooperation is not. These are not just phrases. They actually make a difference when countries face challenges. And what we have done for each other during the COVID period, to my mind, is a very good example of the trust and confidence, but also the new vistas of cooperation that today we need to address. Having said that, let me, since I had all the Gulf ambassadors here, that for us, the Gulf is a very special region. It's a special region. It's our extended neighborhood, of course. It's the source of a lot of our energy supplies. But most of all, it's a special region because of the Indian diaspora. All of you make the difference. And since the Modi Sarkar came into power, I would say a signature theme of the government has been to recognize and appreciate the contribution that the diaspora has made worldwide. And while we have a worldwide diaspora in terms of the numbers and the importance and the salience of the diaspora, I think you cannot find a better example than in the Gulf. And in the Gulf, actually, the Indian community in Kuwait, all of you, you are among the oldest, the most well-established, and as I could see in my interactions with the Kuwaiti leadership, also I would say among the very respected diasporas. Now, we discussed, among the ambassadors, as well as my own discussions with the Kuwaiti government, what needs to be done to meet the concerns of the Indian community. The Indian community today, in the immediate aftermath of the COVID, but also the slightly longer term requirements, for example, of education. My instructions to all the ambassadors was that they need to focus even more, and I must say they've really done a splendid job in the last year and a half, but focus even more on the welfare of the Indian community, to ensure that the disruptions in family, because in many cases family members went back to India, they've not been able to come back, to facilitate their early reunion, to ensure that those who temporarily or otherwise did not retain their jobs out here, how can they come back? How do we create conditions and facilitate their return? And to do all that, of course, we need to have flights coming in from India. These, as in many cases, have been temporarily suspended because of COVID. So as the numbers go down, I obviously would like very much to see a resumption of flights. And definitely, I think the situation has also opened up opportunities for our businesses, for more exports to this region, and for a role for the Indian community in enhancing the economic contacts between us. I was particularly pleased that a matter which has been long pending, which is the IOU and MOU relating to our domestic workers here, that was finalized and signed by the ambassador and the Kuwaiti official, which in many ways streamlines and strengthens the position of our workers in Kuwait. I think that's a very important step, which would certainly encourage a greater Indian presence in Kuwait. So, as you can see, though I've been here really 2 days, it's been busy, it has been very productive. Again, as I said, I wished I had the opportunity to spend time physically with all of you. But before I actually conclude my remarks and listen to all of your concerns and issues, Let me very briefly touch upon what is happening at home, because I think you would all be naturally concerned at the news you get. Often this is put across in a way in which those who are not in India may worry about the direction of events out there. I think it's clear by now that the second wave of the COVID has started to definitely recede. The numbers, the daily numbers you can see of people who are newly infected is now 1/4, 25%, maybe even less than what it was in the peak in early May. The positivity rate has also come down very dramatically in most population centers. And a large part of that has been made possible by a very, very vigorous government response to the second wave. I can tell you that, as someone who's been in government for many decades now, the kind of effort and energy that I saw, the long hours that people put in, I would say, really moved mountains to respond to what was an unprecedented situation. We were talking about oxygen. We ran really hundreds of oxygen trains to ferry oxygen from the production centers to the major cities. All our planes were mobilized, including the Air Force planes, for the oxygen cylinder tanks to be moved, both within the country and from abroad to India. We procured medicines which were essential for COVID treatment, many of them from abroad. We also ensured that the domestic production of medicines was enhanced. And of course, where the vulnerable sections were concerned, many of you would know that we've actually ensured that as many as 800 million people get rations from the government, and 400 million people have actually got funds put into their account in terms of support. Vaccination is, of course, a big issue. Again, it has picked up. We are currently vaccinating more than 3 million a day. Our expectation is that this will go up as the vaccine production increases. We have cumulatively vaccinated about 246 million so far. And the confidence is there that as more vaccine comes into production, as the production of even the existing vaccine scales up, that as the year progresses, we will actually be able to vaccinate all our people. Along with the health situation, of course, there is a natural worry, what is the state of the economy? And there, I want to share with you that the picture has been quite confident in some ways. We saw a strong recovery in the early months before the second wave. But during the second wave, actually, the lockdowns have been local. Interstate traffic, interstate movement has not been disrupted at all. I think a lot of the logistics has kept going. So there is a sense that the economic impact of the second wave would be far less than what happened last year. So the belief we have that India will pick up, that India will recover rapidly, that a lot of what we have seen in the last few years as the steady rise of India and its economy and its influence in the world, that would continue. So as I conclude, I want to come back to all of you because while I have appreciated what the government of Kuwait did, I particularly want to emphasize that we very much recognize what the Indian community in Kuwait did. I know that many of you have helped to acquire cylinders here, oxygen cylinders. It is both the relevance, the practical relevance of what you did, as well as the feeling for your motherland which this expresses. That is deeply appreciated by us. So I thank you here. And I want to finish by highlighting that, the Indian community in many ways defines India abroad. The contribution you make, the respect you earn, the support that you provide, the bridge in a sense that you constitute. I think this is really what makes India's interaction with the world rather unique. And as I said, it is something which the Prime Minister and all of us who are part of his government definitely recognize and appreciate deeply. I'm confident that you will continue to be that effective bridge even as our relationship with Kuwait expands, and that you will keep the Indian flag flying high here, and that as we have seen, whether it is tough times or good times, you will always be there for us. So once again, I thank you for listening to me, and I'll be delighted to get your sense of the relationship, your sense of what the concerns of the community are, and you can be assured that we will always keep it very close to our heart. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your words of encouragement, appreciation, and we are blessed that you could join us today and give your remarks to us. I also thank our Indian community in Kuwait and the Friends of India in Kuwait for joining us today. We look forward to keeping in touch with each one of you to take forward the words and the action plan which our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar sir, has told us to do. Embassy is always available for you. It is home away from home. All are welcome to come to the embassy and let us be in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, once again for your time. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.